How do you respond to an inappropriate accidental touch by someone at work? I'm going to answer this from a unique perspective. First question, was it actually accidental? You can tell the difference by if the person recoils upon touching you or if they explore more. It's a very obvious tactile difference. This is especially true in blind and deaf-blind circles, where some blind or deaf-blind creeps think they can use their blindness as an excuse. Nope. The difference between touch and recoil versus touch and explore/grope is unmistakable. Every blind person has had an accident at one time or another. Appropriate blind people, as soon as they realize what they're touching, and that it's a private area, will immediately draw their hand back and will usually react with embarrassment and apologize. For example, one time I was sitting using tactile ASL interpreters in class. We were seated and my interpreter was seated to my right. Class was wrapping up and I didn't realize my interpreter had already stood up when I went to reach for his hand to ask something, so I ended up actually touching his crotch. I immediately recoiled, felt terrible, apologized profusely, we laughed it off, and moved on. Inappropriate blind people touch, and then their hand keeps moving, and exploring more, even though they know exactly what they're touching. That is just as inappropriate as a handsy-sighted person. There's no recoil, there's no embarrassment, there's no apology, or the apology is obviously delayed and fake, after they've gotten in a good grope. There is often also an obvious ignoring of other cues. For example, I used to have a hearing blind coworker who would ignore every audio cue indicating where I was standing, such as the location of my voice and footsteps, and would quote-unquote accidentally run into me. In every other context, his sound location skills were excellent, yet he would run into me over and over. That's the other cue, if it happens repeatedly. Sighted folks, this is the oldest, tiredest excuse in the blind community. Don't fall for it. With sighted people, I can also tell when someone is touching me by accident versus when they are touching me on purpose. There is a different feel in their hand, the way the muscles in their hand move, how their hand travels and contours my body. Plus, to touch a private area, there really has to be an intentional reach. There's really no way you accidentally touch someone's crotch or chest when you can see to avoid the area. Now there are times when it is truly accidental. For example, in deaf-blind culture, there is something called protactile, where you convey emotion, expression, grammar, and spatial meaning by drawing on the person's body instead of in midair as with visual signing. One time I was standing face-to-face with a deaf-blind client, and he was using protactile to confirm the route to the bathroom. Because we were standing face-to-face, the easiest place to map was on the front part of my shoulder. Part of his map got a bit close to my chest. He obviously noticed the change from bonier musculature to softer tissue. As soon as he realized, he felt terrible and apologized, because he was genuinely just trying to communicate, and he was very apologetic and said he hoped he didn't make me uncomfortable. I knew nothing was meant by it. Again, there is a different feel in the hands. He was obviously focused on drawing the route and wasn't trying to squeeze in a grope. I generally don't like to touch or be touched by hearing-sighted coworkers, accidental or not. The only time I make contact with hearing-sighted coworkers is if they want to show me something, like a new haircut, or if I need to take human guide. That means a blind person holding onto another person's elbow to be guided in an unfamiliar, noisy, or crowded environment. I've had some coworkers and supervisors put their hand on my shoulder though, for purely non-linguistic reasons, and it feels patronizing and condescending to me. The people who do this always seem to do it from behind as well, which feels even more like a power play. Accidental or not, I don't like it and I ask them not to touch me.